Success is not a coin flip, it is a weighted dice. Today, I'm going to show you how to stack that dice with 7 levers that you can pull. I'm going to call it the odds stacking lever. Essentially, you'll be able to pull these different levers on purpose to raise the odds of your likelihood for success on command. This is the Nickolas Natali Show. I'm your host, Nickolas Natali, and today I'm helping founders grow faster by simplifying what matters and executing with discipline. If you just want to level up, be better at what you do, especially occupationally, you're in the right place. First things first, this is a quick story that most founders or anybody who's ever hired anybody can probably relate to. 2 candidates, 2 hires. They have very similar resumes, same portfolio, but there's one clear difference. Candidate A, they're telling you what they could do. Candidate B, they're showing you what they've already done. They're showing you the thing that they finished last night, and then they brought notes for how version 2 would look. You prompted them with a question early on, and they came with the entire thing already completed and done, saying, this is what I got for you. This is how it can be better. It's no hype. It's no fluff. This thing is just done. It's in their hands, and they're showing you the final product. 30 days later, you hire candidate B. They're ahead of schedule. They're asking for harder problems, and they're quietly raising the bar for the entire team. And it's not magic. It's simply traits that this candidate has, and it's the kind of thing that makes a person like that more likely to win in any arena that they go into, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. And as I walk through these 7 levers that are going to raise your odds and likelihood of success, you can go ahead and score yourself. I dare you. Give yourself a 0, a 1, or a 2, or whatever metric scale that you want to slide this thing on. But the first thing is you got to be honest with yourself. So, number 1, competitiveness. I often see this in myself in terms of having a big old chip on my shoulder, and someday, I always imagine the chip is made of ice. Someday it'll melt, but unfortunately it still hasn't. But that also could be a good thing. So essentially, having some sort of competitive drive, some initiative, and not being afraid to measure up against the highest standard there is, rather than measuring it against the average. So when somebody walks into a room, or if somebody's looking for the best way to do something, are they looking for competitors that are coasting along through, or are they looking for who is doing it the best, a rival, quote-unquote competitor, and finding that rival metric that they're trying to live up to and seeing if they can close that gap? It's kind of like if you were a swimmer, would you be trying to compare yourself to the guy at 24-Hour Fitness? Or are you going to be like, I want to be like Katie Ledecky. I want to be like Michael Phelps. I want to be like Caleb Dresser. I want to be like those folks. How do I close the gap from me to them? NBA player Scalabrine, doesn't he have a quote where he says, I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me, when he's talking to some Joe Schmoes about playing basketball?
I may suck for an NBA player. Like, those guys are pretty good, but I don't suck compared to you. Like, you suck compared to me.
How do you close the gap between you and Scalabrine, or if you're Scalabrine, you to LeBron James? Second, finish rate or completion rate, the likelihood that you're going to complete something you start. I have a mixed bag of feelings on this, but I do think there's some truth to each of them. The first is, when I say completing something that you start, I'm talking about things that are worthwhile. I don't believe in sunk costs. If you hate a movie that you're watching, turn it off. Don't waste another hour. That's not a worthwhile pursuit. But if you say you're going to run 5 miles and you're on mile 4 and you want to stop because it's hard, that's different. The trait that you need to be thinking about is, do you complete things and not have a graveyard of stuff that should have been done that you just didn't do? Number 3, and this is something that, once again, friend of a podcast, as I say. I saw somebody wearing a shirt that said that the other day. Thought it was hilarious. But this idea that your circle, your inner circle that you spend a good chunk of time, I understand that there's different circles for different things. You might have your church friends, you might have your work friends, but do those circles innately raise the bar? Proximity resets your thermostat, baby. Do they strive for growth and push you further in the areas that you want to grow in? And I'm not necessarily saying that you should be having your friendships measured based on what they provide you, but I do think it's important to be aware of the influences that people bring into your life, because it influences your success. Fourthly, you see a problem, you think of an idea, and then you build a system or solution for that problem. I ran into somebody earlier this week, and they had described an experience I have lived almost every day of my life. And they said, do you ever just experience like a problem at work, and then you just think about it like all the time until it's solved? Like you will lie down and put your head on a pillow and be like, your mind will just run until it's completed. Like, does that happen to you? And I'm like, yes, that absolutely happens to me. I'm so thankful somebody else said that happens to them too. The point there is the ability to problem solve and also be willing to ruminate on things and want to do things better. The latter part of that, toward the success portion, would be to build systems so it's sustainable in the long term. Fifthly, do you have credible sources in your life, or even that inner circle that we just talked about? Would they say, are you perceived as someone who is going places? They got something going on, good head on your shoulders, you're headed in the right direction. Would people say that? And I am not one to live life by the opinions of others, but there is something to be said when a group of people all think that you have promise. And I'm not saying you need everybody to feel this way about you, but I do think there's something to be said about proof in the pudding. Would people vouch for you? Are you someone that's worth vouching for? Vouching, what a word. Lastly, do you do the old L&A, which is learn and apply at equal speed? You're not just hoarding information. And I mentioned this in the last episode, where business owners will just not make a decision despite having all the information necessary to make a decision. They'll just continue to intellectually pleasure themselves, as some might say, where they're just like feeling good that they're watching more YouTube videos. I'm really thinking through things. I'm going to read a book on this, and then I'm going to watch 20 YouTube videos. Then I'm going to buy a course, and then I'm going to call someone, and then I'm going to learn it and apply it, brothers and sisters. Is that part of the traits that you have? Learn, apply, fail, refine. Learn, apply, fail, refine, success. That's what it is. And then the seventh lever that you can pull, and this is a personal favorite of mine, so do with that what you will. Do you care about the thing that you are working on to continue to go when it gets boring and it sucks? An example I'll provide is Brimstone. This is a deep cut throwback if you are a fan of the podcast, friend of the pod. Brimstone was one of the first people that ever said to me, there's a difference between a hobby and a business. Have you created a healthy obsession with something where it's not all-consuming, but it is to the point where you are going to do whatever it takes to solve the problems and be resourceful to find it? Or is this just a hobby, you know? This is just nice to be doing. So I think there's got to be some sort of obsession there. And I'll leave it to you to define your own balance on that spectrum. But I would imagine any of the greats that we think about. Another conversation I had with a friend earlier this week was the cost of quote unquote being great. And people that I think about in that category, you got to know that they sacrificed something to get there. Let's just toss out his name, Kobe Bryant. The level of detail that man played with can only come from one, heart, but two, obsession. Here's some things that you might fall into a trap with for each of those 7 levers. The first, in terms of being competitive, envy and shortcuts. Don't do it. The completion rate can quickly turn into perfectionism. It's not worth it. Perfectionism often shakes hands with anxiety and things like that, over control about things. Don't need to have any of that. Next on the list is having a solid circle can lead to overdependence on them. Don't necessarily need to have that. A healthy balance there. The next thing about solving problems and ruminating on things could lead to overthinking. Be aware of that. Next thing, in terms of having somebody vouch for you, could lead to people pleasing. Be aware of that. Don't be doing that. And then learn and apply could also lead to, like I mentioned earlier, just you're going to hop from course to course. It's great to be learning, but it's terrible to not be applying. And then lastly, the durable obsession, the healthy obsession, the balance obsession, if that's even possible, can lead to burnout if you don't find purpose in what it is you're doing. So ensure that you are sleeping and hitting your protein, baby. So final thought here is and this is something you know, and reminders are great, success is not guaranteed. It can be tilted. You can stack the levers. You can track the numbers, because what gets tracked gets improved. So keep rolling until the odds feel unfair in your direction. And what I mean by that is stack these levers. Stack them up, baby. Would love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to comment if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, and I'm looking at you in your eyes, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.